Hey guys, hope you all have a great weekend. I'm just going to go over some things from the Chapter 9 and review section of your study guide here. So that being said, let me go over it very quickly. Sectionalism, that part, I don't think you should have much trouble with that, but just remember that it was a loyalty to a specific region, and it started to develop, as we talked about, during colonization with the geography and different ways that the economy is developed based on that. And just remember, it was the most influential movement going on in the country at that time. It really had a large effect on how people felt about a lot of different issues. All right, the growth of urbanization inevitable in the north simply because that's where most of the industry was, and you get the factory system, and a lot of people live in one area, and so you're going to have the growth of cities. Um, that's just a byproduct. Um, Previously established policy from the Articles of Confederation, that should just be the Northwest Ordinance, which it's kind of common sense to the Northwest state territories turning into states due to the Northwest Ordinance. Um, the border states part, it was in your that's in your chapter 9. Knowing the names isn't as crucial. It's just making sure you understand that the border states also did allow slavery, that it was allowed there, even though it wasn't as prevalent as it was in the deeper South. And then speaking of the South, obviously what kept them from industrializing them being very tied to the cotton industry, and then why they thought slavery was a positive good or a necessary evil. Remember that code of chivalry, that aristocracy. They very much justified it by saying it allowed them to live a civilized lifestyle, but they also were able to provide, you know, guidance, not education, but like guidance or tutelage to the inferior slaves or blacks. That was their mindset, and that paternalistic feeling. But make sure you understand, it was for economic reasons, but also they felt it allowed them a certain lifestyle that was important to them while they were taking care of those inferior people. And then you remember you even had poor Southern whites who were okay with slavery, who actually supported it. It gave them somebody to be superior to, but also they didn't want to compete with slaves. 4 million people are released. That's 4 million people that are looking for land and jobs, and they didn't want to compete with those people. All right, so that pretty much does it for the chapter 9 section. Just make sure you're familiar with all that, and you should be in pretty good shape. Now for the review, going through Unit 1 and Unit 2, make sure you know what colonies were founded for religious reasons, and it'd be a good idea to know who founded different colonies. For example, Connecticut, founded by Roger Williams, him being when he was banished from Massachusetts Bay, that would still be for religious reasons. Obviously, Massachusetts Bay, Plymouth uh, and then so Maryland, Maryland was, as a refuge for Catholics with the Acts of Toleration there. And some that weren't, like New Hampshire wasn't. It was broken off as a royal colony, and then like Georgia, who was uh, founded by Oglethorpe. That was done more as a penal colony and for economic reasons. So that's what we're looking for there. All right, the First Great Awakening. Remember, very much in response to Puritanism. Remember, a lot of different religious groups are going to come out of that. You got your Methodists, your Baptists, a lot of educational movements, more colleges, higher education created, and creating a greater separation between church and state. Something else for you to keep in mind. Also, some of the major movements, and with that separation of church and state, just keep in mind we're going to become much more representative as we allow more people to vote, and not requiring such strict voting rights. Is a more democratic spirit that comes out of this First Great Awakening, also because it should be up to the people to decide, and that's what a democracy is. So please make sure you keep that in mind. All right, the Zinga case, all right, that one should be pretty easy. Him being acquitted because he told the truth, establishing that idea of freedom of the press. The Glorious Revolution. I remember that took place in England, but it had a major effect in ending the dominion here that controlled New England at the time, and that was a positive because that had kind of taken away a lot of our representation. Remember the Glorious Revolution? William and Mary take over the throne, overthrow the previous monarchy, end, and, like I said, ends that dominion of New England, and that's a good thing for the colony. So please keep that in mind. All right, Bacon's Rebellion. Why was it significant? Remember, Nathaniel Bacon gets some indentured servants and slaves, a lot of indentured servants though, and causes that uprising, and it gives thought to these wealthy landowners that slavery and African slaves would be a much easier group of people to control, and has them turn more to that as the source of labor instead of the indentured servant system. All right, really helps lead to that development of slavery in the middle of the Southern colony. All right, Paine, I think you're probably pretty familiar with him, wrote Common Sense. He talked about it doesn't make sense for a small island to rule a continent. I think you should have a pretty good grasp on that. The delegates at the Constitutional Convention, remember they were well educated, about in their 40s or 50s, and a lot of them very, very wealthy as well. Now, common misconception, please remember, not most of them owned slaves. Now, a fair amount did, but not most of them. And the question asked what most of them were like, and that was wealthy, educated, white. So please make sure you're familiar with that. All right, Alexander Hamilton's economics plan. All right, remember the first bank. He had the idea of the excise tariffs that's going to cause the whiskey. One of them is going to cause the Whiskey Rebellion. His debt plan that the federal government should assume the debt. The excise tax, like I said, which was on whiskey. Those farmers in Pennsylvania, aka the Whiskey Rebellion, are going to be big fans of that, and that's the one that Jefferson's going to repeal as soon as he gets in office. And then make sure you know that Hamilton, obviously he was a Federalist, so he was different than a lot of the Democratic Republican beliefs, where Jefferson believed more in farming. Hamilton did believe more, and he saw what industry had done in Britain. He believed in more developing manufacturing and industry and using wealthy financiers to help the government and help that industry get started. So make sure you're familiar with that. And then also make sure you know Henry Clay, all right, is going to kind of beg, steal, and borrow some of Hamilton's ideas, one of those being to put tariffs on goods to try to protect American industry. All right, the idea being if we put tariffs on these foreign products, and then people are going to be more likely to buy American goods. So please keep that in mind. And then the Alien and Sedition Acts, make sure you know what those were, and then what event had taken place that made it possible for those acts to not only get passed, but to be supported, and that being the XYZ affair. Because, France had disrespected us there. A lot of Americans are upset about it. And so that being said, they're going to be okay, at least at first, with these Alien Sedition Acts, because a lot of it's backlash against the French and their disrespect for us. All right, so that should pretty much do it. Obviously, if you have any questions, over the weekend, please feel free to email me, and I'll help you out any way that I can. All right, thank you very much. Y'all have a great weekend, and please study. Test on Monday. All right, peace out.